Hi everyone, my name is Dahan. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Open Influence, and today I'm going to talk about relevance in influencer marketing. And so the first question I ask is it relevant to talk about relevance? And I hope so, because otherwise you've all wasted your time. And so diving in, just looking at a snapshot of the 1940s, what amazes me most about this picture is the fact that everyone's gathered around one device. And if you think about it, in the 1940s, everyone was really looking at the same message at the same time. And you fast forward to family time and family time around entertainment today, there we go. This is what you see, right? Everyone's familiar with this image. Everyone has their own device, and everyone is consuming content as they wish on their own time. And this has really become possible because of the abundance of information out there. And how much information is out there? There are 300 exabytes of data today. And just 4 years ago, the amount of information out there was 30 exabytes. And to give you a sense of that scale, 1 exabyte is about 1 million terabytes. And to give you a sense of that scale, the entire Library of Congress could fit into just 10 terabytes. And so not only do we have a ton of information out there, but it's increasing at an exponential rate. And the truth is, too, we're creating content faster than we can consume it. So we have about 1,000 images going into Instagram every second, 300 video hours on YouTube every minute being uploaded. And even though we're spending 30% of our time on social media, 11 hours a day consuming content, and running 11,000 Google searches every second, the truth is there's more content than we can consume. And so is it relevant to talk about relevance? Yes. We as people are geared towards relevance because it helps us figure out what we're going to pay attention to and what we're going to ignore. And just to give you a sense of that scale, every second our brain is receiving 11 million bits of information, but it's only able to process 50 bits. That's 0.0004% of the information that we receive that we're able to process. And so we really have to work to figure out what we're going to pay attention to and what we're going to ignore. And so let's talk about how this focus on relevance has changed entertainment. We're all familiar with Netflix. And the key to Netflix's success, what makes Netflix Netflix, is the fact that they focus on relevance, right? It's what makes them sticky. It's not the abundance of shows. It's understanding what shows you want to watch. And the better job they do, the more time you spend on Netflix, and the more time you spend on Netflix, essentially the more money they make. And so it creates this loop, right? The more users that are on it, the more data they're gathering, the more they can model people like you, the more preferences they can build out, and the better job they can do showing you more and more niche content. And so the same way your experience of Netflix is defined by what you see, our universe works the same way. Our universe is not actually everything out there. It's just what we can see. And that barrier between what we can see and what we can't is defined by scientists as the cosmic horizon. Anything beyond that horizon, we don't know, right? We haven't seen it. The light hasn't reached us yet. There could be anything out there. And so the same way there's a cosmic horizon that defines what our universe is and what we call our universe, we have an information horizon. And everything in that information horizon is what we use to define ourselves and what we use to build our understanding of the world. And so let's talk about something a little bit more important. Let's talk about how our information horizon is affecting the news. So we all understand that the news has become more polarized in recent years, and the world has really become a little bit more polarized. And we could see it here, right? When you understand what divides people, the biggest thing that divides people today are their political views. And if you think about relevance and how it affects something like Netflix, just look at the content we create. That same drive to be relevant and drive relevance and the abundance of choice out there is really causing news stations to become more focused, to become more skewed, to shift away from center. And so the truth is, we're looking at different information. And that's why our political gaps are widening. We're not reading the same news. We're not watching the same news. We're not listening to the same facts anymore. But that divide is actually becoming wider. And it's not just because of the news stations. It's also driven by us. Because the truth is, we get a lot of our news from social networks. And we get a lot of our news from people. And here's the reason why that's important. Today, there's so much information out there, we live in a trust deficit. And what do I mean by a trust deficit? Well, people don't trust governments the same way they used to. They don't trust companies. They don't trust advertisers. I'm sorry, guys. And they don't trust politicians, right? But what people do trust is other people, right? And it's the interactions of other people that build our social networks. And it's that trust, when it comes together, that creates something called social validation. And if you think about any decision you've made recently, ask yourself, did you look at the reviews? What restaurant did you go to? What app did you download? What car did you buy? There's a great TED Talk, actually, about the dark web and drug dealers on the dark web. And it's one of my favorites because I was shocked to find out that drug dealers have reviews on the dark web. Delivery time, product quality, customer service, really everything, right? So the idea of us looking to other people to inform our decisions has really proliferated every aspect of our life. And so that's formed something, right? That's formed something called the social economy. This exchange of social validation, of us interacting with one another, has really built this new world, right? And we're all participating in the social economy. Think about it. Every time you post an Instagram story or watch a YouTube video or go on a rant on Facebook for like 3 paragraphs about some enlightened existential experience, you're participating in that economy. And so when we look at a social network, anyone that's ever pitched a VC or has read about Facebook in the early days are familiar with something called the network effect, right? Uber has it, Facebook has it, and it's really the idea of the more people you bring together, the more connections you have. And for every additional person you add into a social network, the number of connections grows exponentially. And those connections are what bind a network together. It's what creates a community. That's the real secret sauce to Facebook's success. They were able to establish that network effect early on, which made it a destination for others to join. And if you think about it, in the social economy that's built on this network, influencers are really the people that have the most sway and are able to convince people within this network. But there's a really important distinction I want to make when we're talking about relevance. Influence is not the number of connections you have. It's the strength of those connections, depending on what you talk about. And so here's a quick example. Here's an influencer. When she talks about boxing, her audience really engages with her. And we could say, well, she's relevant. She's very relevant for boxing. You might even say, well, she's maybe very relevant for fitness. But when she talks about yoga, only a couple people in her audience engage. Right? So if you based her as a fitness influencer based on her performance when she talks about yoga, she won't be a fit. Right? Same example with travel. Everyone knows the travel influencer. But in this example, when this influencer posts about sightseeing, mediocre performance at best. However, when she posts about the meals she's enjoying while she's traveling, engagement is through the roof. And so just looking at these examples, we understand that the strength of her network and her influence actually changes drastically depending on what she's talking about. And so let's boil this down. It's a very simple formula. Relevance is made up of 3 things. It's having the right message delivered through the right trusted messenger to the right audience. And all these 3 things need to connect to build relevance. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Thank you.